The first time my wife said those words to me, I thought she was joking. I just inherited millions. Pack your things, get out of my house. She said it flat, like she was reading a grocery list. No emotion, no hesitation, just done. And I laughed. I actually laughed out loud, standing there in the kitchen, holding a half-empty mug of cold coffee like an idiot, waiting for her to crack a smile or roll her eyes or say she was kidding. That's how normal everything felt just seconds before, like we were still us. But she didn't laugh. She didn't even blink. She just stood there, leaning against the marble counter we'd picked out together 3 years ago, arms folded tight across her chest like she was holding herself together. Her hair was still pulled back in that loose bun she wore when she worked from home, a few strands falling around her face. Same woman, same kitchen, same morning light coming through the blinds. Completely different person. "What?" I said, still smiling, because my brain hadn't caught up yet. "What are you talking about?" "I'm serious, Ryan," she said. "You need to start packing." The way she said my name, God, that should have been the first real clue. No warmth, no softness, just distance. I set the mug down slowly. "Okay, I'm not following. Inherited from who?" "My aunt," she said. "Margaret." I frowned. "The one in Connecticut? I thought you barely talked to her." "I didn't," she said, "but she didn't have anyone else." That part checked out, I guess. I'd met Aunt Margaret once, maybe 5 years ago. Sharp, quiet woman with this intense way of looking at people like she could see through them. No husband, no kids, just money. Old money, apparently. Still, something felt off. "Okay," I said carefully. That's great, babe, really. But what does that have to do with me packing my stuff?" She looked at me like I was asking something stupid. "It means this house is mine now," she said. My stomach dropped a little. "Ours," I corrected, forcing a small laugh. "You mean ours." She shook her head. "No," she said. "Mine." That's when the air in the room shifted. I could feel it, like a pressure change before a storm. "All right," I said slowly, trying to stay calm. "I think we need to take a step back here because this doesn't make any sense. We bought this house together." "You helped pay the mortgage," she said, "but it's in my name." I blinked. "What?" "You remember why," she added quickly, like she'd been waiting to say that part. And yeah, I did remember. 3 years ago, my credit had been wrecked from a failed business I started in my late 20s. Nothing illegal or shady, just bad timing and worse decisions. When we were buying the house, the bank basically told us putting everything under her name would get us a better rate. At the time, it didn't feel like a big deal. We were married. What was hers was mine, right? That's what I believed. "That doesn't mean," I started, but she cut me off. "It means legally, this is my house," she said. "And now that I have the inheritance, I don't need your contribution anymore." The words landed harder than I expected. "Contribution?" I repeated. "Is that what you think I am? A line item on your budget?" She exhaled sharply, like she was already tired of the conversation. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I stared at her, trying to find something familiar in her face, some trace of the woman I'd spent the last 8 years with. But it was like she'd already checked out. "When did you find out?" I asked. "Yesterday." "Yesterday," I echoed. "And this is, what, day 1 of your new life where I don't exist anymore?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked over to the sink and started rinsing a plate that was already clean. Her back was to me now, shoulders stiff. "I've been thinking about this for a while," she said finally. There it was. Not sudden, not impulsive. Planned. A cold, slow realization started creeping in, settling into my chest. "A while," I repeated quietly. "So this isn't about the money." She didn't turn around. "It's not just about the money." "Then what is it about?" My voice was sharper now, louder than I intended. "Because you don't just wake up one morning, inherit some cash, and decide to throw your husband out like he's trash. That doesn't just happen." She shut off the faucet. For a second, the only sound in the room was the dripping water. Then she turned around, and for the first time, I saw something break through her composure. Not guilt, not sadness. Something closer to resentment. "I'm tired, Ryan," she said. "Of what?" "Of carrying everything." I actually took a step back. "Carrying everything? Are you serious right now?" "Yes," she said, her voice rising for the first time.
I've been holding this entire life together while I what? I shot back. Worked full-time, paid bills, took care of the house when you were pulling those insane hours at the firm? What exactly have I not been doing? She laughed then, but it wasn't a happy sound. You think that's enough? She said. You think just showing up and doing the bare minimum makes you a partner? My chest tightened. Bare minimum? That's what you think of me? I think you got comfortable, she said. Too comfortable. I felt something shift inside me then, something darker. Wow, I said quietly. So that's it. You get a little money, and suddenly I'm not good enough anymore? It's not a little money, she snapped. It's more than you'll probably make in your entire life. That one hit, hard. I could feel it in my gut, like a punch I didn't see coming. Jesus, I muttered, running a hand through my hair. Who are you right now? I'm someone who finally has options, she said. The room felt smaller suddenly, like the walls were closing in. Options, I repeated. And one of those options is kicking your husband out? Yes. No hesitation, no regret. Just yes. I swallowed, trying to steady myself. Is there someone else? That question hung in the air longer than anything else we'd said. For the first time, she hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. My heart dropped straight through the floor. Emily, I said slowly, is there someone else? She looked away. And that was it. That was the moment everything cracked open. Because suddenly, all the little things from the past few months started lining up in my head like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't even realized I was trying to solve. Late nights at the office, the way she'd started guarding her phone, the distance, the arguments that came out of nowhere and went nowhere. I told myself it was stress. I told myself it was normal. I told myself we were fine. You've got to be kidding me, I whispered. It's not what you think, she said quickly. I laughed again, but this time it felt hollow. Oh, really? Because it feels exactly like what I think. It's complicated, she said. It's not complicated, I shot back. You're cheating on me. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She ran a hand over her face, frustrated. This is exactly why I didn't want to do this like this. Like what? I demanded. Honestly? Directly? Without sneaking around? That's not fair. Fair? I repeated, my voice rising again. You just told me to get out of my own house because you inherited money and, what, found someone better? I didn't say that.
You didn't have to. The silence that followed was deafening. We stood there, staring at each other, both breathing harder than we should have been. 8 years. 8 years of history, memories, inside jokes, shared plans, late-night conversations, road trips, fights, makeups. All of it felt like it was collapsing in real time. And the worst part? I didn't even recognize the person standing across from me anymore. Finally, she spoke again, quieter this time. I'll give you a week, she said, to find somewhere else. A week. Like I was a tenant. Like I was nothing. I nodded slowly, even though every part of me wanted to scream. Yeah, I said. Okay. Because what else was I supposed to do? Fight her? Beg? Pretend this was salvageable? Something in her had already moved on, maybe a long time ago. I turned and walked out of the kitchen, up the stairs, into the bedroom we'd shared for years. The bed was still unmade from the night before. Her side looked untouched. That should have meant something, but I didn't even know what anymore. I stood there for a long time, just staring at everything. Then I opened the closet, and I started packing. I didn't sleep that night, not even close. I lay there on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling while everything replayed over and over in my head, like a loop I couldn't shut off. Every word she said, every look, every pause, it all felt heavier the more I thought about it, like the truth was hiding somewhere just under the surface, and I was too exhausted to reach it. At some point, I heard her come upstairs. Soft footsteps, careful, like she didn't want to wake me, or maybe didn't want to deal with me. She didn't come into the bedroom. Instead, I heard the guest room door close. That hit harder than anything she'd said earlier.
8 years together, and now she couldn't even sleep in the same room as me. I almost got up, almost walked down the hall and knocked on that door, demanded she look me in the eye and explain how we got here. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was fear of hearing something I couldn't unhear. Or maybe I already knew. So I stayed where I was, just listening to the silence. By morning, my body felt like it had been dragged through concrete. My eyes burned, my head was pounding, and everything had that surreal, detached feeling like none of this was actually happening. But it was. The closet was still half empty. My clothes were still in piles on the floor where I dropped them. This wasn't a nightmare. I heard her moving around downstairs again. Coffee brewing, cabinets opening and closing. Normal sounds. Ordinary sounds. Like nothing had changed. I sat up slowly, ran a hand over my face, and just sat there for a minute trying to figure out how to exist in the same house as her without losing it. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Jake. "Game tonight? You alive?" I stared at it for a second, almost laughing at how disconnected it felt from my reality. Then I typed back, "Can you talk?" He called immediately. "Dude, what's up?" he said, his voice casual at first. "You sound like crap." I hesitated. I didn't even know where to start. "Emily wants me out," I said finally. Silence. "What?" he said, like he thought he heard me wrong. "She inherited money," I continued, the words feeling unreal even as I said them. "A lot of it. And now she wants a divorce." Another pause, longer this time. "Okay," he said slowly. "Hold on. Back up. That doesn't make any sense." "Yeah," I said flatly. "Tell me about it." "Did you guys have a fight or something?" "No," I said. "Not really. Not like this. She just dropped it on me yesterday. Told me to pack my stuff and get out." "That's insane," he said. "There has to be more to it." "There is," I said quietly. I could feel my throat tightening again. "I think she's seeing someone." Jake didn't even hesitate this time. "Who?" "I don't know," I admitted. But when I asked her, she didn't deny it. "Jesus, Ryan." "Yeah." There was a shift in his tone then. Less disbelief, more focus. "All right," he said. "Have you looked through her phone? Emails? Anything?" "No," I said. "Why not?" I let out a dry laugh. "Because up until yesterday, I trusted my wife." "Yeah, well," he muttered, "that might have been a mistake." I didn't respond to that, because he wasn't wrong. "Listen," he went on, "you need to figure out what's really going on before you just roll over and leave. This doesn't feel right." "It's her house, Jake," I said. "Legally. I checked last night." "You checked?" "Yeah," I said. "Mortgage, deed, everything's in her name." "Still," he said, "you're married. That counts for something." "Apparently not to her." There was a pause. "Come stay with me," he said finally. "At least until you figure things out." I exhaled slowly. "Yeah, maybe." "Not maybe," he said. "You're not sleeping on the street because your wife lost her mind." I almost smiled at that. "All right," I said. "Thanks. Keep me posted," he added. "And Ryan?" "Yeah?" "Don't let her bully you out without knowing the full story." I hung up after that, but his words stuck with me. Don't let her bully you. Because that's exactly what it felt like. Like I was being pushed out of my own life, and I was just letting it happen. I sat there for another minute, then stood up. I didn't grab my bag. I didn't head for the door. Instead, I walked downstairs. She was at the kitchen island again, laptop open, typing like it was any other morning. Coffee cup next to her, hair still in that same loose bun. For a second, I just watched her, trying to understand how someone could flip a switch like this. "How long?" I asked. She didn't look up. "What?" "How long has this been going on?" Her fingers paused on the keyboard. Then she slowly closed the laptop. "I don't think this conversation is going to help anything," she said. "I don't care," I replied. "I want the truth." She finally looked at me, and there was something colder in her eyes now, more settled, like she'd already accepted whatever this was. "A few months," she said. The words landed like a brick. "A few months?" I repeated. "So while we were still, playing house? Going to dinners, talking about vacations, acting like everything was fine?" "It wasn't fine," she said. "It was for me," I snapped, "because I didn't know my wife was screwing someone else." Her jaw tightened. "You don't know that." I stared at her. "Then tell me I'm wrong." She didn't. Of course she didn't. "Who is he?" I asked. She hesitated again, and that hesitation lit something in my chest. Anger, real anger this time. Emily, I said, stepping closer. Who is he? It doesn't matter, she said. It matters to me. It shouldn't, she shot back. No, I said firmly. You don't get to decide that unilaterally and then tell me it doesn't matter who you've been with behind my back. She stood up then, clearly irritated. You're not going to like the answer. Try me. Another pause. Then she said it. It's Mark. Everything in me went still. Mark, I repeated. Our neighbor? She didn't say anything. Didn't need to. My mind immediately pulled up his face. Mid-40s, always overly friendly. The kind of guy who waved too much, smiled too long. Lived 2 houses down. Married. Or at least, he was. You've got to be kidding me, I said under my breath.
It wasn't planned, she said quickly. It just happened. Yeah, I said, shaking my head. That's usually how affairs work. It's not like that, she insisted. We connected. He understands me. I actually laughed again, but there was nothing funny about it. He understands you, I said, better than your husband of 8 years? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I turned away, pacing a few steps, trying to process the level of betrayal I was dealing with. Not just cheating, not just emotional distance, but someone right there, someone I talked to, shook hands with, shared beers with during neighborhood barbecues. Does his wife know? I asked. Emily stiffened. That's not your concern. Yeah, I said. I think it is. It's not your place to get involved. I turned back to her, disbelief flooding through me. You're serious right now? You're blowing up our marriage, sneaking around with a married guy, and you're worried about me getting involved? This is between me and you, she said sharply. No, I said. It stopped being just between us the second you brought someone else into it. Her expression hardened. You need to focus on yourself, she said, on moving forward. Moving forward? I repeated. You mean moving out? Yes. Just like that? Like none of this mattered. Like I was already gone. I stared at her for a long moment, something shifting inside me again. Not just anger this time, clarity. Because for the first time since she said those words yesterday, I stopped feeling like the victim and started seeing the situation for what it really was. She thought she had all the power, the house, the money, the upper hand. But she was also hiding something messy, something that could blow up a lot more than just our marriage. And suddenly, leaving quietly didn't feel like the right move anymore. All right, I said finally, my voice calm in a way it hadn't been before. She frowned slightly. All right, what? I'll pack, I said. I'll get out of your house. Her shoulders relaxed just a little. But, I added, we're not done here. Her expression tightened again. What does that mean? It means, I said, grabbing my phone from the counter, you don't get to rewrite this story like I was just some dead weight you decided to cut loose. She didn't respond, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes now. And for the first time since all of this started, I wasn't the one on unstable ground anymore. I didn't leave that day. That was the first thing that threw her off. She expected me to cave fast, to grab whatever I could carry, maybe crash at Jake's place, disappear quietly, and let her slide into whatever new life she'd already started building. That's what she was counting on. But I stayed. Not in some dramatic, confrontational way. I didn't follow her around or start arguments. I just existed in the house, moved through it like I belonged there. Because I did. And that unsettled her more than anything I could have said. I could see it in the way she avoided me, the way her eyes flicked up every time I walked into a room, like she was checking whether I was still there or if I'd finally taken the hint. I didn't give her that relief. Instead, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Little things first. She was on her phone constantly now, more than ever, always angled away from me, screen dimmed, notifications muted. And when she did get a message, there was this split-second reaction, this tiny shift in her expression before she smoothed it over. I'd missed that before. Or maybe I'd ignored it. Then there were the outings. She said she was working late, but her car wasn't at the office parking lot when I drove by one night. I didn't even plan to check, I just ended up there, like my gut was pulling me in that direction. Her spot was empty. I sat in my car for a minute, staring at it, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Then I drove through the neighborhood,
past our house, past the familiar streets I'd known for years, and then I saw his car, parked in his driveway, lights on inside. That alone didn't prove anything. It shouldn't have. But my hands tightened on the steering wheel anyway. I didn't stop. I kept driving. But that image stayed with me, burned in. When I got back home, she wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. I sat in the living room in the dark, waiting. And when she finally walked in around 10:30, she froze for just a second when she saw me sitting there, like she hadn't expected me to be home. "Hey," she said, trying to sound normal. "Yeah," I said calmly. She set her keys down, avoiding eye contact. "Long day." I nodded slightly. "At the office?" That made her pause, just for a fraction of a second. "Yeah," she said. "Where else?" I held her gaze. Didn't say anything. Didn't accuse. Just let the silence stretch. And that's when she looked away first. That told me everything I needed to know. After that, things shifted. Not dramatically, not all at once, but something inside me locked into place. I stopped reacting emotionally, stopped chasing explanations, stopped asking questions I already knew the answers to. Instead, I started thinking, strategizing, because this wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was about being erased, and I wasn't going to let that happen. The next morning, I made a call. Not to Jake, to a lawyer. I'd never needed one before, and honestly, I didn't even know where to start. I just searched, picked someone with good reviews, and scheduled a consultation. Her name was Laura Bennett. Sharp voice, direct, no nonsense. We met that afternoon at her office downtown. I remember sitting across from her feeling completely out of my depth as I explained everything. The house, the inheritance, the affair, every messy detail I could piece together. She didn't interrupt much, just listened, occasionally jotting something down. When I finished, she leaned back slightly, studying me. "All right," she said. "First thing, you're not as powerless as you think." That got my attention. "She owns the house," I said. "It's in her name." "Doesn't matter as much as you think," she replied. "You're married. Depending on the state laws, that property could still be considered marital, especially if you contributed financially." "I did," I said, "for years." She nodded. "Good, that helps." A small sense of relief crept in, but I kept my expectations low. "What about the inheritance?" I asked. "That's usually separate," she said, "unless it's been mixed into joint assets." "So that's hers," I said. "Most likely," she confirmed. "But her behavior? That's a different conversation." I frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" She looked at me carefully. "You said she's involved with a married man," she said. "Yeah. Do you have proof?" "Not yet," I admitted. "Get it," she said simply. I blinked. "That's it?" "That's it," she said. "Because if this gets messy, and it will, you want leverage." The word hung in the air. Leverage. I'd never thought of my marriage in those terms before. But then again, this wasn't a marriage anymore. This was something else. Something colder. "What kind of proof?" I asked. "Messages, photos, anything that clearly shows the relationship," she said. "And if his wife doesn't know, that's another variable." I thought about that for a second. Mark's wife. I barely knew her. Quiet, kept to herself.
But she was there, in that house, living her own version of reality, completely unaware of what was happening behind her back, just like I had been. "What happens if she finds out?" I asked. Laura gave a slight shrug. "Things tend to unravel." I nodded slowly. Unravel. That felt like the right word. When I left her office, my head was spinning, but in a different way than before. Less chaos, more direction. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I had a plan. And the first step was simple. Find the truth. Not just what I suspected, what I could prove. That night, I didn't go home right away. I parked down the street, not directly in front of the house, far enough that I wouldn't be obvious. And I waited. Part of me felt ridiculous, like I'd become one of those people you see in movies, spying, watching, waiting for something to confirm what you already know. But another part of me needed it, needed to see it with my own eyes. Around 9:15, I saw her car pull out of the driveway. My heart started pounding immediately. I waited a few seconds, then started my engine and followed at a distance. She didn't go toward the office, didn't go toward downtown. She stayed in the neighborhood, turned left, then right.
And then she pulled into his driveway. No hesitation, no checking around, just straight in, like she'd done it 100 times before. I parked further down the street, far enough to stay out of sight but close enough to see the house. Lights were already on inside. She got out of the car, walked up to the door, and didn't even knock. It opened almost immediately. And there he was, Mark, standing there like he'd been waiting for her, which he probably had. They didn't say anything I could hear, but the way she stepped inside, the way he reached for her, it wasn't subtle. It wasn't ambiguous. It was clear. Painfully, undeniably clear. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. There it was. Proof. Not just suspicion. Not just gut feeling. Reality. And for a second, everything inside me just went quiet. No anger. No yelling. No breakdown. Just this cold, steady clarity. Because now I knew exactly what I was dealing with. And more importantly, I knew exactly what I was going to do next. I didn't confront her that night. That was the part of me that had changed the most. Old me, I would have stormed up to that house, pounded on the door, dragged everything out into the open right there on the front lawn. I would have needed her to see how much it hurt, needed him to feel it too. But that version of me was gone. What was left was quieter, colder, and a hell of a lot more patient. I sat in my car for another 10 minutes after she went inside, just staring at the front door like I could somehow burn the image into my brain permanently. Then I pulled out my phone, and I recorded. The house, her car in the driveway, the time, everything. Not because I wanted to relive it later, but because I knew this wasn't about emotions anymore. This was evidence. This was something real I could hold on to when everything inevitably got twisted. After that, I drove home. The house was dark when I walked in, which felt strange in a way I couldn't fully explain. Like it already didn't belong to me anymore, even though I was still standing in it. I went upstairs, sat on the edge of the bed, and just waited. Around 11:40, I heard her come in. Same quiet footsteps, same careful movements. But this time, I didn't pretend to be asleep. I stayed exactly where I was. She opened the bedroom door slowly, probably expecting it to be empty. When she saw me sitting there, she froze. For just a second. Then she tried to recover. "You're still up?" she said, her voice tight. "Yeah," I replied. Silence stretched between us. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her, but she didn't come any closer. "I thought you were staying at Jake's," she said. "I thought you were working late," I said evenly. That hit. I saw it in her face, the immediate shift, the calculation. "You're tracking me now?" she asked, defensive. "I'm paying attention," I said. Another pause. "Ryan, this isn't healthy," she said, crossing her arms like she was trying to take control of the conversation again. "We need to separate and—" "I saw you," I cut in. That stopped her, completely. "I saw you go to his house," I continued. "I saw him open the door. I saw you walk in like you belong there." Her face went pale. For a second, she didn't say anything. Then she exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath. "Okay," she said quietly. "So now you know. No denial, no excuses, just acceptance." And somehow that made it worse. "You've been lying to me for months," I said. "I didn't know how to tell you," she replied. "You could have started with the truth," I shot back. "It's not that simple." "It actually is," I said. "You just didn't want to deal with the consequences." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't argue, because she couldn't. We stood there for a moment, the weight of everything hanging between us. Then she said something that honestly surprised me. "I'm not going to apologize for being happy." I blinked. "Happy?" I repeated. "Yes," she said more firmly now. "I didn't plan this, but it happened. And I'm not going to pretend it didn't just because it hurts you." I stared at her, trying to process how casually she was rewriting everything. "You think this is about you being happy?" I said quietly. "You think that justifies what you did?" "I think staying in something that wasn't working would have been worse," she replied. "It was working for me," I said. That's because you didn't see the cracks, she said. Or you ignored them. That stung. Because part of me knew there was truth in it. But that didn't excuse any of this. Who else knows? I asked. What do you mean? About you and Mark. Her expression shifted again, more guarded now. That's not relevant. It is to me. No one else is involved, she said. I let out a slow breath. That's not true, I said. She frowned. What are you talking about? His wife, I said. And just like that, the tension in the room snapped tighter. You're not telling her, Emily said immediately. It wasn't a question, it was a demand. I tilted my head slightly. Why not? Because it's not your place, she said, her voice sharper now. This is between us. No, I said calmly. That's what you keep saying, but it stopped being just us a long time ago. You'd be doing it out of spite, she accused. Maybe, I admitted. Or maybe I just think she deserves to know the truth, same way I did. That's not the same, she snapped. You're my husband. And she's his wife, I said. So yeah, it kind of is. She shook her head, pacing a few steps like she was trying to get a grip on the situation. You don't understand what that would do. I think I do, I replied. It would blow everything up. She stopped pacing, looked at me, and for the first time since all of this started, I saw something close to fear in her eyes. Why are you doing this? She asked. I held her gaze. Because you don't get to walk away from this clean, I said. Silence. Heavy. Thick. Final. She swallowed hard, her composure slipping just enough to reveal what was really going on underneath. Control. She thought she had it, and now she realized she didn't. You're being vindictive, she said quietly. I'm being honest, I replied. Another long pause.
Then she shook her head again, almost like she was trying to convince herself of something. You've changed, she said. I almost laughed. No, I said. I just stopped trusting you. That landed harder than anything else I'd said, because it was true, and she knew it. We didn't say much after that. There wasn't really anything left to say. She grabbed a few things and went back to the guest room, closing the door behind her like she'd done the night before. But this time, it felt different. The balance had shifted, completely. The next day, I made one more decision. I drove back to that street, parked in the same spot. But this time, I didn't wait. I got out of the car, walked straight up to his house, and knocked. It took a few seconds. Then the door opened. Mark stood there, looking exactly like he had the night before. Calm, confident, completely unaware of what was about to happen. For a second, he just stared at me, confused. Then his expression changed. Recognition, followed immediately by tension. Ryan, he said slowly. Hey man, what's up? I didn't smile, didn't move. I think we need to talk, I said. He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder for just a split second. That told me everything. She's not here, he said quickly. I didn't ask if she was, I replied. Another pause. Then he stepped outside, closing the door behind him. Smart. He didn't want me inside. Didn't want me anywhere near his life. You okay? He asked, trying to keep his tone casual, but there was an edge to it now. I looked him dead in the eye. Does your wife know? I asked. That wiped the casual right off his face. What? He said. About you and Emily. Silence. Thick. Immediate. Look, he started, lowering his voice. This isn't... Does she know? I repeated. He ran a hand through his hair, clearly thrown off now. No, he admitted. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I said. That's what I thought. Ryan, he said, stepping a little closer. I didn't plan this, all right? It just... Yeah, I cut in. I've heard that one already. He exhaled sharply. We didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did, I said. Another pause. Then he looked at me, really looked this time, and I could see it in his eyes. He thought I was here to fight, to yell, to lose control. But I didn't. Instead, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and held it up slightly. I've got proof, I said. His expression shifted instantly, from defensive to concerned. What kind of proof? He asked carefully. I didn't answer right away, just let the silence sit there. Then I said, enough. He swallowed. Okay, he said slowly. What do you want? That question hung in the air, and for a moment, I just stood there, looking at him, thinking about everything, the past 8 years, the lies, the betrayal, the way she thought she could just erase me. And then I gave him my answer. I want the truth to come out, I said.
His jaw tightened. That's not going to help anyone. It'll help me, I replied. And what about the fallout? He pressed. You really want to blow up 4 lives over this? I tilted my head slightly. You already did that, I said. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. Silence. He didn't have a response to that, because there wasn't one. I took a step back. You've got a choice, I said. You tell her, or I do. His face went completely still. You're serious, he said. Yeah, I replied. I am. I turned and walked away after that. Didn't wait for his answer. Didn't need it, because one way or another, everything was about to come crashing down. And this time, I wasn't the one getting pushed out. I was the one pulling the truth into the light.